Truman lives in an ideal town, surrounded by friendly neighbors, well-maintained streets, and bright sunshine. He works in an insurance company office, and his life seems calm and measured. Every day begins with Truman saying hello to his neighbors and going to work. Outwardly, everything looks fine, but inside he begins to feel anxiety and a vague feeling that something is wrong. One morning on his way to work, a strange object suddenly falls from the sky and crashes right in front of Truman. It is part of a soffit with a star inscribed on it, and Truman is confused, not realizing where it came from. This event starts a chain of strangeness that makes him wonder. At work, Truman shows his usual friendliness to his coworkers, but he feels out of place. During lunch with his friend Marlon, he begins to discuss his childhood dreams of traveling, especially to Fiji. Truman has always wanted to leave the city and go to uncharted places, but something has always kept him grounded. Marlon tries to reassure him, assuring him that their life is perfect, that there is no need to look for anything else. One of the strangest things that begins to bother Truman has to do with his wife Meryl. She is always smiling, but her smile seems strained. Their conversations become increasingly mechanical, and her reactions to his anxieties unnatural. One day, Truman suddenly remembers a girl, Sylvia, whom he met in college. Memories of her come to life, although their relationship ended abruptly and mysteriously. Sylvia was the one who tried to warn him that his life was an illusion, but she was quickly taken out of his life, taken away before Truman's eyes, claiming that she must return to her homeland. This encounter with Sylvia left him with a strange feeling in his soul that had been lingering in his mind for years. Trying to make sense of his feelings, Truman begins to notice repetitive actions around him. Every day his neighbors do the same thing at the same time, as if on a schedule. One day he notices the same people walking in circles around the neighborhood, repeating the same routes. Truman decides to test the system and suddenly changes his usual route. When he turns sideways, the city seems to go machine crazy and people start acting confused, as if no one was prepared for his decision. This makes Truman question the reality of his world even more. His distrust of those around him grows, and he begins to make attempts to escape the city. One day Truman decides to leave the city and goes to the bus station to buy a bus ticket to Chicago. But suddenly the bus breaks down, preventing him from leaving. He then decides to get a car and travel by car, but every time he tries to leave the city limits, something goes wrong. Roads are blocked, creating artificial traffic jams, and accidents occur. At one point, a huge forest fire even appears in his path. All these events only increase his suspicions that the city is being controlled by someone from the outside. One day Truman runs into Marlon, and his friend, as always, tries to support him, assuring him that everything is fine and that he is only experiencing temporary difficulties. Marlon leads Truman to the bridge, where he tells him that they have been friends since childhood and that he will never betray him. But behind it all is the bitter truth: even Marlon is not a true friend. He is just like everyone else, is part of the show, and his words are controlled by the writers who are watching Truman's every move. Meanwhile, Truman keeps thinking about Sylvia, who has become a symbol for him of something real in this fake world. He finds an old t-shirt with her image on it and decides to escape the city no matter what. One night, he fakes his disappearance, hides himself in the basement under a blanket, and creates the illusion that he is asleep. Meanwhile, all the cameras are watching his bed, but it is soon discovered that Truman has escaped and an emergency operation is launched to find him. The entire staff of the show is involved in the search for Truman, and the creators anxiously watch as he tries to get out of town. He finds a boat and heads out to the open sea, despite his fear of the water, which he has had since childhood due to his father's death at sea. But even on the water, he is prevented from leaving by the show's controlling people, creating a violent storm, hoping he will come back or get scared. But Truman doesn't give up. He overcomes the storm and continues onward. Finally, Truman faces the limit of his world. His boat crashes into the wall of a huge set with the sky painted on it. It's the end of his world. It's the boundary that limits his existence. Truman realizes that his life has been artificial all along, that everything around him is a show created to entertain the audience. In that moment, he finds a door that leads beyond the world he's known. His creator, whose voice comes from heaven, tries to stop him, suggesting that he stay in the world he knows, where he is loved and protected. The creator assures Truman that unknown and danger awaits behind this door. But Truman has already made his decision. He can no longer live in a false reality, even if it means facing the unknown. He says goodbye to his world, saying his famous words, "Good morning, and if I don't see you later, good afternoon and evening." Then he walks out the door, leaving behind his fake life and stepping into the real world he is about to discover.